Hey, what is up, everybody? It is Aiden McNally. I'm here with another episode of Wealth Strategy Media TV. I'm really excited for today. We actually met our guest at the Body and Soul Expo, an amazing event. We're putting together a documentary on it at the moment. So you guys will see that on our TV channel, as well as a shorter interview of Kelie inside the Body and Soul Expo documentary too. So that'll be awesome to see. With that, I'll let my dad introduce himself a little bit, and then we'll get on to the interview.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. It's nice to see you all again. Jeremy, Wealth Strategy Media and Relief Alliance. And we actually have some pretty big things coming up. I'm excited to get into this interview. We definitely have a really special guest we're excited to show our audience and our viewers. But before we get into that, just to give you an update on what we got going on, we have a Peace Gala coming up on June 27th. We're going to be the Universal Peace Federation is a special guest, and we're going to be appointing the next international ambassadors for peace at this event. We're also going to be providing community leadership awards, lifetime achievement awards. It's a really big deal. We're going to have people from the UN, government officials, celebrities coming in from Hollywood, California, Miami. It's going to be a great time where it's going to be in at New Smyrna Beach in Florida, at one of the governor candidate mansion's houses, who's letting us use his beautiful place. It's an oceanfront called the Queen's Gambit. So you can check that out at peacegala.com. That's peacegala.com. If you want to come and mingle with the crowd there, it's definitely the room to be in. Get yourself a ticket on that website. Look into the sponsorship opportunities. The sponsorship opportunities come with a ton of value, exposure-driven value, so it would be very beneficial to any brand that wants to get involved. But yeah, I'll pass that back to you, Aiden, and let's bring on the guest.
Perfect. Let's do this. Well, Kelie, welcome in. It's so awesome to have you on here today. How are you doing?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Doing great. So tell us what you do.
So I am a hypnotist, but my official title is transformation expert.
Mm-hmm.
I help people using a tool I invented called Transform Hypnosis. And what I do is I offer this both in person or online if they're unable to come to my location. And Transform Hypnosis is a combination of past life regression, transformational hypnosis, beyond quantum healing, and a plethora of other modalities that I've worked with over the years. And what it does is it takes people into the theta state, which is a brainwave state that's very relaxed. And it's a state that your brain is in twice a day, right before you fall asleep and right before you wake up. So everybody experiences it. Therefore, everyone can be hypnotized. And once you get into the theta state, your conscious mind usually steps aside. If it doesn't, I have tricks to fix it. But it allows me access to your subconscious mind, which is where all of the programs are running and all of the things that you learned as a child and are still carrying with you operate. We use my framework at that point, which is the RISE framework. The RISE framework is release, illuminate, shift, and elevate. So by releasing this old programming or any connections or past life ties that you have, and we discover what those are by me asking a series of questions, we then allow you to illuminate your path forward, which looks different for everybody. Not everybody is spiritual or wants to be spiritual, and that's okay. It's not required for you to benefit from this work. This is simply moving energy around, and we're all made of energy. You all heard of quantum physics and quantum healing. So all of this activity allows us to reframe your thinking, reframe your belief system, and allow you to see life from a different perspective. And once you can shift your perspective, you can shift your whole existence. And I speak from experience because it happened to me. And then the last part of my framework is obviously shift and then elevate. So once we get you to understand that this programming is no longer necessary and we release it, we do that working with archangels. We do that working with source, God, creator, whatever you want to call it. And it basically makes you feel lighter. You understand that whatever, like I carried a lot of my mother's beliefs, that I was afraid of snakes, that I was afraid of, all these things, and they weren't mine, they were hers. And it took me until I was in my 50s to understand that. And once I was able to release her stuff, I was able to move forward and my whole life changed. I now work with rehabbing sea turtles. I am not afraid of touching dead animals like I was when I had my mother's beliefs in me. I'm not afraid of wild animals anymore. And it sounds like a small thing, but it's a really big deal for me because I am seeing life through the lens of what a veterinarian would see as opposed to someone who's afraid of animals. So it's really helped me just shift my perspective and live in a better way.
And is that one of the things that made you want to go and help transform other people and heal other people's traumas, no matter what it is?
That's exactly what it was. I had a session of Dolores Cannon's quantum healing hypnosis technique, which I also practice. It's also called QHHT. And when I learned why my soul chose the family it chose to live with in this lifetime and what I chose to accomplish in this lifetime, it gave me this insight that I hadn't had before. And it allowed me to understand how I could make my life better and stop living with a poverty mindset, which was something a lot of us struggle with. Like, oh, I don't have enough money for that. You always have enough money for it. You just have to frame it in a way that your brain doesn't feel like you're stealing from one part of your life to another. And it's not to say to go put yourself in debt, but it's a matter of putting it into a perspective that works for you, which is what this work did. It showed me past lives. It showed me what I learned in those past lives. It helped me release a lot of stuff I was carrying. And when I came out of the session, I saw a puzzle piece click into place and I was like, I've got to do this. So I started with QHHT. Unfortunately, they make you do all of your sessions in person, and it wasn't feasible for me because I'm in a place where we have a lot of transient people, and I met a lot of people from other places that wanted to work with me and couldn't. So that's what caused me to create Transform Hypnosis, which is a play off of the QHHT with a whole lot more attached to it.
Gosh, that's absolutely amazing stuff. I love what you do. We have a nonprofit. I don't know if we mentioned that, but I'd love to collaborate with what you do because the work that you do to heal people, that is needed, especially with all these people who have the long, childhood trauma, whether they've been beaten by their parents, people have been kidnapped, so many different things that people have to live with. And no, I just absolutely love what you do. So thank you for what you do. Actually, it's
absolutely. It's a pleasure to be able to help somebody like I said, seeing it from a different perspective changes your whole life. It removes fear. And when you can take fear out of somebody's existence, it's empowering. And PTSD, I've worked with veterans with PTSD, and I've watched them wake up and they were just in awe, like, I can't believe I feel so different. And I just had this, couple hours of hypnosis and I feel so different. But it's literally that simple. But people have to understand how it can help them in order to consent to it. That is what a lot of people struggle with. They feel like hypnosis is too spiritual or too ghostly or, out of the realm of reality for them. And they shy away from it, doubting its abilities. But it is quite powerful.
Well, actually, that I believe is true. I think in my own journey, I've actually considered hypnosis, and I personally have a hard time with getting how I would be able to get hypnotized because my brain's like always working, and I can imagine there's a lot of people out there that think the same. Like, how do you what would you say to somebody who's having those struggles? Like, they want to be hypnotized, they want to try it, but they're just like, how would I possibly get hypnotized? My brain's always on. I'm stressed. I'm, just going through my day to day. How do I get hypnotized? Is it even possible for me?
Absolutely. Yeah. So believe it or not, I was like you in my corporate life back, 20 some years ago. When I was in corporate America, I was on. I was always running. I was always moving. My brain was constantly working. And that wasn't a reality for me back then. When I discovered hypnosis, it was when I began my career in law enforcement, which was around 2010 is when I had my first session. And it was a simple, I want to drink more water, help program me to drink more water, which was really silly, but that's what I needed. And once I felt the relaxation it allotted me, even though it was only for 30 minutes or an hour, my body began to crave it because although it's great to be high level and on, and I can tell, Jeremy, I'm also getting intuition about you, you and Aiden work together in the same, in the, the company that you guys run together. So you're doing that and your dad, and you're just so on with everything. it's possible for you to sit down for 5 minutes and give yourself 5 minutes of silence. And if it's somebody like you that feels that there's going to be a challenge, I give you preparation tools before we meet so that you can begin to understand that it's okay for you to take 2 minutes for yourself and learn how to do that. And then you can actually work on that as you 1 to 2 weeks before the session. Okay, I'm going to give you some meditations. And you might say, oh, this is a waste of time, I can't do it. Do it anyway, because your body knows what it needs. Your conscious mind, which is running that show, is going to be on all the time because it thinks it has to be. It's in survival mode.
Yeah.
But once we enable it to relax and understand that it's okay for you to delegate once in a while, it's okay for you to relax, it changes your whole mindset. I actually worked with a man who was a Wall Street guy. And he's like, I don't know if this is going to work. I said, trust me, it's going to work. And he had some profound revelations. He saw a lot of his childhood and was able to kind of reconnect with the love of nature he had as a child. And that's what he needed. It opened his eyes so that he could say, I'm not stuck in Wall Street. I'm not on the trading floor all the time. I'm allowed to relax and play golf and enjoy my life now. So it kind of gave him permission to turn that chatter off. So yes, it's possible for everyone. I've not had anyone I can't hypnotize other than my brother. And that's because he said my voice sounds different and it makes him giggle, and he won't allow himself to listen to my voice in that capacity. So that's the only unsuccessful, session I've ever had is my
Yeah, no, and that's actually amazing. So the people that want to work with you, it's not just, hey, pay me and come to the appointment. I'm going to try to make sure that we can hypnotize you. I'll even send you techniques in advance. So you're working with your clients through and through to make sure that they're actually getting the most value out of your sessions from the start.
I am fully committed to their success. And if I was offering I call them the intensive hypnosis sessions, which are similar to the quantum healing hypnosis sessions, but there's a little bit more intuition to them. But those are 4 to 6 hours. So you come to me and we have a 2-hour interview, take a break, and then we have 2 to 3 hours of hypnosis. And sometimes the interview is a little longer because we get chatty, but people were afraid of that because it's a big commitment for them, time and investment wise. But I always offered that with, I don't put a time limit on how long we're together. If it takes 10 to 12 hours, I'm with you the whole time. And that has happened before. I had a woman who was, she had a big challenge with animals and had a lot of sadness and fear. And she was with me for 10 hours. But when she left after those 10 hours, she was a changed woman. I had another woman who was with me for 12 hours. Her hypnosis session, just when she was hypnotized, was 7.5 hours. But that's what she needed because she's very highly spiritual, and she was always punishing herself and not kind of allowing herself to experience the magic of her spirituality. She was always kind of working. So I showed her, I kept her hypnotized for 7.5 hours. And we spoke to so many entities. We spoke to Donald Trump's soul. We spoke to Sasquatch. We spoke to Mother Earth. We spoke to General Grant from the Civil War. I mean, we spoke to all these relatives of hers, but it gave her what she needed because that's what she needed. She was very hard-headed.
That's incredible. That actually, I was actually going to ask you like what your biggest breakthroughs were with your clients, but I think you've been speaking to that, so I won't ask that question unless you have some really cool examples, and you want me to ask that. But other than that, Aidan, what do you think? I'd personally like to know, like, what are the biggest breakthroughs you've had? It sounds like you've been around the block and you've helped a lot of people through a lot of.
Yeah, 100%. I'm curious.
I have had one of my favorite stories to tell was a woman who won a session with me at my yoga studio. I was having a little expo day and we gave away sessions, and she won a session. She had no idea what hypnosis was. She had no idea what I offered. She just put her name into the drawing and that was it, which was fine. I know and I trust that she was there for a reason and we got together for a reason. When I met her, she was in her 40s. I think she was turning 48 or 49 on her next birthday, which was coming up. When she was 20, she was a young pregnant woman in Jamaica and her husband was murdered. So imagine being 20 and pregnant and then knowing that he went away to work and never came home. She never got to say those last words. She had so many questions. And although because of the circumstances, she had a feeling of what had happened, she still didn't have those definitive answers. So I was able to connect her with her husband's soul, and they spoke. He actually came to her in the session. She spoke to him, asked him questions. They felt the love. They were able to hold each other because energetically you can actually feel the connection. And she asked as many questions as she was called to. They talked about, she had a beautiful son, and, you know, they got to talk about their son, and it gave her so much peace. And then it gave her the realization that she was carrying this sense of loss that was such a burden on her heart, that her whole, from 20 years old to 48 or 9 or whatever age she was, she'd had a chain of bad relationships just because of the trauma she'd experienced from this great loss. She was able to list every one of those relationships by name. And her subconscious said, clear. She'd say the name, clear. Say the name, clear. She went through the entire list of them. And I just sat back and watched because I was in awe. I had never seen anything like this before. But you're always learning in hypnosis. And I just let her do what she was doing. And when she was finished, his soul left, and she was able to release all of those pattern behaviors that were consistently bringing her into those wrong relationships for her. Not to say they were bad, they were just wrong for her. So as soon as she left, she woke up out of the session, and she said, I can't even put words to how I feel. And she was lit up. You could see how her aura and her energy had just shifted from the time she went into the session to come out of it. And she had so much clarity and alignment that she literally went out, and we stayed in touch a little bit afterward, but she celebrated her birthday. She found the right relationship, and she's still in it. This is a couple of years ago now. And it was just absolutely amazing to see somebody that had carried that. I mean, that is a huge trauma to suffer. Yeah. And carry with you as such a young woman, and then being a single mom, trying to navigate being a single mom. So
not easy.
That's one of my favorite release stories. I've had physical healing take place for people. Had a man come off of a balcony in his college days. He was now in his 50s, and he was just leaning on the rail on the 4th floor, and the rail gave out. So he flipped head over heels and landed on the ground from 4 stories up. It was like 40 feet. And he didn't break anything, but his collarbone popped out of his shoulder socket. So it was kind of sticking up like that. And when they replaced it and did all the surgeries to do the ligament repair, it caused him irreparable damage. And he was now retired, wanted to play golf, and he had a lot of physical pain. And we were able to remove that pain for him because it was attached to the trauma of the fear of the fall. We were also able to learn why he fell, and it was the root cause of this, because you have to figure out why that happened. Why did he fall off of that balcony? Nothing's random. We got him the answers, and unfortunately, I can't remember what they were, but it allowed him to release that trauma and heal, and that physical pain left with it. So that was pretty powerful, because now, he could play golf again.
That's beautiful, really. I want to say, so you have your own personal framework that you've developed called the RISE framework.
Yes.
And so then that stands for, correct me if I'm wrong, release, illuminate, shift, and elevate.
Yep.
Can you shed a little light on what that process actually looks like for the people that are working with you? When they come in the doors, how do you implement the RISE framework with them? And why does that make you different than the other hypnotists?
I use the RISE framework in the session. So another thing about me is I am highly intuitive, highly spiritually connected. So a lot of even the stuff I'm telling you today is channeled from my higher self, so I can't screw it up. But as I meet the person, and even if another thing I forgot to say is I had, the long sessions, which challenged people because it was too long. So I offer 1 and 2 hour sessions now, which don't include the interview, but they're just pure hypnosis. And I have found, depending on the person, that those shorter sessions allow just as much work to be accomplished, but it doesn't give me the personal background, which limits the kind of questions I can ask. So that's the difference between the two. But I do offer 1 hour, 2 hour, and then the 4 to 6 hour session. So in any session, when I meet the person, I'm getting intuitive guidance on that person. I can read them. I can see what's kind of bothering them, and I can see through the BS, because nobody wants to be honest with what's bothering them. They want to believe it's something else and they want to downplay it. I'm able to see through that. So I call myself the human BS detector. So I figure out, okay, how do we approach this without offending or causing defensive reactions? Because I don't ever want to make anyone feel uneasy, but sometimes I have to say the hard thing and, to really kind of get them to see it and get them to understand. So when I have them in trance, I am going to release any of those limiting beliefs. We receive programming from our parents from the first 7 years are the most integral of any child's life. They will, and if they grow up in an environment where they have fighting parents or abuse, that really imprints on their psyche, and that's going to, cause them issues moving forward. So I try to find that kind of a thing. Domestic violence victims, obviously that weighs on you. And I release any tie. So I'm looking for the root cause of, why did this husband beat this wife? Why did this happen? And a lot of times it's a soul level. Oh, they had a past life and she shot him in the last life. So they're balancing karma in this life. And a lot of people have a hard time accepting that, but that's literally what it is. We are all energy. We all incarnate to this earth to learn lessons. And we carry with us the same soul groups, throughout different lives. And sometimes you're the mother and father, sometimes you're the brother and sister, sometimes you're the married couple, sometimes you're, whatever, father, daughter. But you balance any karma that happened. And karma is not what we call it here. We're like, karma's a bitch, stuff like that. Karma is simply a balancing of the energetic scales. So if you murdered me in a past life, I'm going to have to murder you or do something equal to balance those scales. So that's what I mean by looking for the root cause. So if it's literally something like that with a past life, you'll be shown that past life and you'll live through it. I will take you to the death. And then I ask your higher self, why did you show him that life? Then that's when I get the answers, is asking your subconscious. Okay, you showed him that life and that. What does that mean? And they'll say, well, because he keeps repeating that life. And we need him to understand that until he changes, he's going to keep reliving that same life with just different actors and different circumstances. The releasing is allowing me to understand the root cause of whatever it is we're looking at and releasing it. Illuminating is giving you the wherewithal to understand that, okay, I had a past life with my current husband and, he shot me. And so we have to resolve that karma. What is it we need to do to resolve that karma without me shooting him? Obviously, we don't want to do that. So it gives you just a little bit of insight and understanding as to why things are going the way they are. What is it you need to do to up your game, so to speak? And then the shift, once you understand, it's so simple, it's complicated. So if you are able to live in the present moment, right here, right now, everything's perfect.
I gotta stop you right there. You just said my language. Okay. I read a book
famous words right there.
And I'm telling you, I live my life based off that philosophy, is forget the past, don't anticipate the future, live in the present, right here, right now, make the best decision you can in this very moment, every moment. And the next one will always be better. And if it's not, you're still on the right track. And
exactly, because sometimes it can't be beautiful. Sometimes you have to have those ugly moments because, again, we come here to learn lessons. If we were going to come here and it was going to be all, pink bows and candy canes, what's the point? You have to have pain in order to grow. And I actually wrote a book about my life because I grew up in some really crazy circumstances. I wasn't abused or anything like that, but I had a sister who tormented the heck out of me growing up. But I had a lot of interesting adventures and challenges in my life, which made me very independent, which allowed me to be very resourceful, which allowed me to do a good job for, the people I worked with over the years. And I've had over 125 jobs in my life. So I have a lot of experience in life. I am very well-rounded and well-versed. I can relate to anybody. So when I meet different people that have issues, I'm able to see them where they are. I don't live from a place of judgment. I don't judge people. I don't blame anybody because I have been healed enough to understand that those are human emotions that don't serve. That's part of the framework as well. So then once we can shift that perspective, we can elevate you to a new consciousness and a new existence. Where I'm at right now, I do not have stress. I do not worry about anything. Like, I was not nervous about this interview. I, really like both of you and met you, and I felt comfortable with you. And I'm like, you know what? I will be guided to say what I need to say to make this interview, come across as it needs to let people understand what I do. So I don't worry about stuff that's out of my control. I don't worry about things that I don't need to worry about. Like, I don't deal with what's going on in the world. I don't care. Love. That's it.
Yeah, and that's so true too. Is the things that aren't in your control. Your brain actually can work against you. From what I'm aware, I'd love your thoughts on this too. Is my belief system is your brain. You can have something bad happen, but that thing happened that one time. You're going to replay it over and over from different angles, and you're going to suffer that same moment 1,000 times. But can you control it? Can you control it? After that first time, do what you can control. But once you can't control anything anymore, you just got to let it go. Why suffer 1,000 times over and over? I mean, maybe I said that kind of wrong or messed up, but
no, not at all. I agree with you 100%, because that's why I wrote my book, because I kept replaying all of these things that happened to me. I mean, I suffered addiction, and I felt shameful about it, and I felt awful about it. But as I did my healing work, I was able to release it, and I saw it for what it was. My soul came here to learn how to be resourceful and independent. And by struggling with that addiction, and actually, I didn't have to go to rehab or anything. I was able to say, I'm done. I've had enough. And I was able to walk away from it without any outside help, because I had nobody. It was just me. And I was able to say, okay, I don't like who this makes me. I want to be back to my normal, happy self. So it really helped me see stuff. And then as I went through my life, the same thing happened with quitting smoking. I just stopped smoking one day because it tasted bad. And that was it. I just didn't go back. I stopped drinking soda. I stopped eating meat, not because I felt it did anything. I just knew it was not good for me. And I stopped consuming those products, and I'm good with it. So I feel like that was all part of my spiritual awakening. And I use these tools to teach others and to say, okay, look, I know what you're going through. I've been there. And this is something that worked for me. Let's implement it for you if necessary. If not, we can, explore what else it is you need to learn. Because if a lesson keeps repeating, you haven't fully absorbed the meaning of it or the best purpose, why it happened to you. Yeah. People tend to get into that loop of repetition because they're not listening to their intuition. And everyone's like, well, I'm not intuitive. Everybody's intuitive. It's a matter of being able to connect with your soul self, which is distracted by technology and television and, noise. So that's why I try to work with people and say, look, meditation's important. And it doesn't have to look like you sitting on a pillow with your legs folded, chanting Om. You can sit in your favorite chair, close your eyes, put your head back, and that's all it takes. There's nothing special to it, but you need that silence to help you connect. And once you connect, you get your guidance. And that's what all of this is. It's about helping you remember who you are to maneuver these lessons you signed up to learn here, so that you can have the best outcome possible.
Oh man, I love that so much, Kelie. So actually, I have one last question for you. I know we're running a little bit out of time, but what would you say to somebody who's like working like 80 hours a week and they're disconnected from their self, always stressing, always anxious about, the next day, not wanting to wake up? What would you say to them if they could integrate one thing in their daily life that can benefit them and help them, even like a slightest bit change, how their outcome of their day is?
That's an amazing question. And I love that you asked it. I would tell them that they need to find 2 minutes of silence. There's actually a free app that I use that I'm going to tell you what it is. I'm not affiliated with it, but it's called Triple Flame. It has to do with the gene keys, which is it's an analysis of our birth time, birthplace, like our natal chart, and it gives us our traits and things about us as humans. It's a very interesting product that I have used, which helped me learn about. So I put that app on my phone, and it's got a 2-minute timer, and I can listen to music. I can listen to a guided meditation, or I can just listen to silence, and it's a timer, and I use that. So I started with that because I had a challenge quieting everything down. 2 minutes. And what you'll find is sometimes you're like, hey, I'm going to do it 2 more minutes. I'm going to do 2 more minutes. And sometimes you go, and you can set it for different times. I think it's got 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and 10 minutes. And if you can get yourself in the habit of allowing yourself that luxury of that 2 minutes of just quiet mind, even if you have to go in the bathroom at work to find the time, do it in the bathroom. You know, it's amazing. But once you start to connect with your higher self in that manner, it will become necessary. You'll crave it. It's almost like an addiction in a good way. So I would encourage people to find those 2 minutes of silence and then up them. Ideally, the best way to meditate is 20 minutes twice a day, once in the beginning and once towards the end of the day. But if that's too challenging for you with your busyness, then give yourself 5 minutes. But that is the first step, because you have to surrender control. Mm-hmm. That's hard for most people. And then you have to allow the universe to communicate with you. And that's kind of one of the key things I teach. I'm also putting together some free online courses that will help people deal with that. So stay tuned for that. That's stuff that'll be showing up. So
I love that, actually. And we, Aiden and I, we have a nonprofit called the Relief Alliance. We work with youth and we work with the homeless. And what you're teaching is just so valuable, because it really does start from within, and you got to learn to have a relationship with yourself and stay grounded, and I just love what you're about. I'd love to continue these discussions with you, and I think there's a lot of ways we can collaborate, and I think what you're doing should be out in the whole world. How can people find you, Kelie? What are the best places that people can find you?
The best place is my website at transformandrise.com, transformandrise.com. I offer a complimentary clarity call, about 20 minutes, give or take. They never really go 20 minutes. They're usually a little longer, but you can book that call just to find out if what I offer will suit you. If you have questions or have any questions on collaboration, the button is on the very front of my webpage. It's up in the upper right corner. It also goes through my different types of session and explains what they are. And it allows you to book sessions, or like I said, I always encourage the clarity call so we can understand what will work best for you and kind of get you comfortable with what I offer. That's the best thing to do. But I'm also on YouTube because I am also a trance channel. I channel higher dimensional beings for positive and loving messages. So you can find me at Kelie Cichoski on YouTube. Some of those sessions I mentioned about Donald Trump's soul and Sasquatch are also on my YouTube channel. So if you're curious about what the hypnosis sessions look like, you can check them out there. And I'm on Instagram and Facebook, Transform and Rise on Instagram, and Kelie Cichoski on Facebook.
Excellent. Oh man, that's great. It was such an honor talking to you today. I love this topic. I'm a total nerd around it. So if you noticed.
That's wonderful. We need more people to understand what it is and see how it can help everybody, because that's how we're going to make this world a better place. We help people change from within, because we can't change what's going on out there. That's not our deal. We have to accept it, and it is what it is, but we can put our focus on the positive, and that's what this work helps us do.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on here today, Kelie. It was amazing. Guys, stay tuned. She will be in Wealth Strategy Magazine's June 1st issue, as well as upcoming ones as well. So stay tuned for that. You guys will see so much more. But thank you so much for coming on here, Kelie.
Thank you for taking the time to interview me. I appreciate you learning about my business.
Of course. Oh, we'll have you back. We're totally bringing you
100%.
back.
This is an amazing interview.
Yeah. Take care, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.